Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Champions League match preview for the penultimate time this season. We talk about Celtic heading into a European game, but not just any European game, one that is being lauded by many as the biggest game in recent memory for Celtic Football Club. An opportunity to do something that hasn't been done since 2013, and that's to get through to the next round of the UEFA Champions League. So, with the pressure on and the stakes at their highest, how will Celtic get on? Will they do it? Or will they bottle it? Let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. That would be much appreciated. It is the penultimate time, as I said. We'll do one of these Champions League match previews in this league phase, and hopefully Celtic give us more if they head through to the next round. So you know what to do. Go down below, hit both those buttons. It takes a second of your time and you'll get all your information you need ahead of these big European nights. All that and more. We've got some transfer news to cover at the end of this one too, but I guess we should probably start with what is a huge game for Celtic tomorrow night. Young Boys of Bern visit all the way from Switzerland to Celtic Park tomorrow night in the penultimate fixture of the Champions League phase. A league phase which has been kind to Celtic but not so kind to Young Boys, because here is the table in all of its glory. Celtic in a dream position right now, a commanding position which could see us go through to the next round should we beat Young Boys tomorrow night. And Young Boys, as we've said, right down at the bottom. 6 out of 6 games lost for the Swiss champions. It's been a disaster of a campaign. However, all the fuel for them to try and turn that around even a little bit tomorrow night and get their points on the board they've been so desperately looking for. We don't want Celtic to be the victims of that. We can't be the team that finally let them get points on the board. And we've been in these positions before, where Celtic are heavy favourites in a European fixture, where Celtic have been the team who look the most favourable on paper. And then we've fucked it. To be quite blunt, pardon my French, but that's exactly how it's happened in times over the past few years. And I simply can't watch that happen again tomorrow. And I don't think Brendan Rodgers or this Celtic team will want to let that happen tomorrow. The stakes are so high and the pressure is on. A win could see us through to a place that we could only have dreamed of back in August when this draw was done, that we could only have dreamed of when Brendan Rodgers came back to the club. This is everything that he was brought back to do, to take Celtic to the further stages of European competition. The money that comes into the club if we do this, the overall joy that comes to the supporters if we do this. There is so much riding on Celtic's season tomorrow night, it feels like. And despite how well we're doing domestically, top of the league by a country mile, winners of the League Cup, through to the next round of the Scottish Cup, there's been something missing for the last 20 years at Celtic, and that's something to shout about in European football. We've watched our rivals go to 2 European finals. Meanwhile, since 2003, we've not even got close. We've not won a knockout tie. Now, that's a big ask. That's something that we'll talk about should we progress, but you've got to get there first. And I think people are quite right to call this the biggest game in recent memory at Celtic Park, because the opportunity here in front of us is massive, and we want to make it as easy as possible. Take all the pressure off of going down south to visit Aston Villa in a couple of weeks' time. We want to be through. We want to have it down in paper. So yeah, a lot to talk about. The opposition not doing too well, we know that, but it doesn't take away from the fact this is a tough game. So we've got a lot to cover here. The Swiss Super League table right now would lead you to believe that Young Boys are a very beatable side for Celtic, sitting 9th in the league table with only 6 wins in the opening 19 games this season. They have just returned from their winter break this past weekend, and they couldn't win. They couldn't win on their first game back. A chance to kind of reset and restart their season. They didn't do that. The morale, the feeling at the Young Boys camp right now is just, it's just not there. Here is their recent run of form coming into this game. As you can see, a lot of friendly games, Ludogorets and Hanover being 2 of the notable ones, but a heavy 5-1 loss to Young Boys in there, a loss to Sion, another one of the bigger sides in the country, and of course that draw with Winterthur at the weekend. It's just been a disaster of a season, both domestically and on a European level for young boys. And it makes no excuse for Celtic tomorrow. There's no excuses for Celtic to drop points tomorrow night to young boys. Now, I think that we got away with it a wee bit against Bruges at Celtic Park because they're actually playing quite well and because they're, competing with teams in this Champions League group. And I think you got away with it away to Zagreb because you had a long trip and it was away from home to the Croatian champions. And once again, a team who have a few points on the board. But to go into a game at home, your own territory, when you're flying against a side who are quite clearly down and out, you've got to win them. And it's a dead rubber for young boys to an extent. I know they'll play as if they need something. But it still means we should be winning. I mean, here is their Champions League results on screen. This has been them in the competition this season. And I mean it with all due respect to young boys, but it's been disastrous. They've been taking tanking after tanking. They came close against Inter Milan, which was probably their best performance in the opening 6 games, but they have been proper humdinging, to use a Scottish term. And I don't want Celtic to be remembered as the team who gave up that opportunity to join the list of teams who tanked them. It would just be the Celtic way to be the side that finally lets them get a win tomorrow night. But that would be so embarrassing. It would be so embarrassing. I'm just going to call it how it is. It's not just a must win for Celtic. It's a should win for Celtic. And I don't mean to overlook a team who are the champions of Switzerland. They're in this competition for a reason. But if we didn't win tomorrow night, I'd be slightly concerned. I would be slightly annoyed. In fact, I wouldn't be slightly annoyed. I'd be massively annoyed. So we can't make any mistakes. We can't be Celtic in Europe of past. We can't be the bottle jobs. Brendan Rodgers, the serial winner, and this Celtic squad full of serial winners needs to show why we consider them serial winners on that park tomorrow night. Because, quite simply for me, there is no excuse. Here is the typical starting 11 for the young boys, or at least the starting 11 that they played at the weekend. A couple of dangerous players in there, don't get me wrong. The playmaker in the middle of the park, Monteiro, seems to be the star man. You will notice one man up front for them, former Rangers player Cedric Itten. He is their starting striker. Only 4 goals this season, however, he's not exactly hitting the heights. And obviously it's nice to welcome back former Rangers players to Celtic Park, if you consider what happened with Vladimir Weiss on match day 1. But, it's still a decent side. These are good players who are quite simply having an off year. It happens to the best of us. We've seen it what happened with Celtic a few years ago in the COVID campaign. We had a great squad and players that had won league titles and cups and trebles. And then it all kind of just fell away, and once it's bad, it's bad. Once morale goes crashing down, everything comes crashing down. So young boys are a team who are, given the chances, can certainly hurt us. A couple of key players in there. It's about controlling this game tomorrow night, and it's about being ruthless with our opportunities that we create ourselves tomorrow night. Because I think one of the criticisms of late, and especially at the weekend for Celtic, is the ruthlessness just hasn't been there. But this is an opportunity to restore so much of that optimism and confidence, and certainly just feel-good factor that was there for the first few months of this season. It's kind of went and dipped off in the last month or so. There's been people moaning about things left, right and centre. The performances maybe haven't been up to the same standard as what they were when we were beating Bratislava 5-1 on the opening day. But you need to bring that back to the fans. You need to bring that back to Celtic Park tomorrow night. And the way that's done is by a ruthless performance on the pitch, by taking your chances, controlling the game, and just not letting young boys breathe. That's what happened on the opening day when we won 5-1. Technically, Slovan Bratislava are a better team than young boys. They're higher than them in this league table, granted, on goal difference. But nonetheless, we've seen what we've done against RB Leipzig. We've seen what we've done against Bratislava. And we've seen what we've been able to do when we play our absolute best in other European games. I withdrew a good few of them now, but we went to Atalanta and we were defensively solid, showed that we can compete with the big boys. Tomorrow night, give us the best version of Celtic, and I have no doubt in my mind we win that game. Brendan Rodgers has so many different things he can do in this game tomorrow night, so many different options with that starting 11, especially in the middle of the park where we have great players. He's got a squad to his disposal who are good enough to get the job done, and we await to hear from him at his press conference today, so touch heralded that it's not going to be any bad news, but we're in a very good place heading into this game. And I think that, you know, despite the kind of grumblings and mumblings of discontent over certain things in the last month or so at Celtic, I don't think that's crept into the changing rooms. I don't think that's crept into Lennoxtown by any stretch of the imagination. Rodgers has got this team in a good place, a place where we keep winning and winning and winning. So I don't have any doubts that he's sending them out with the right mentality tomorrow night. In fact, here is some of Brendan Rodgers' comments on Celtic TV regarding this game. He said that if we can get through and into the playoffs, it's been a generation really since we've been able to do that as a club. So yeah, more importantly for me in terms of the performances as well as the results, some of our performance levels in the Champions League shows that we really belong there. We want to continue that. The whole idea was to sustain this over a period of time, and we have a great opportunity to make those playoffs. So I would be heartbroken for this Celtic side. Granted, it would be their own fault. It would be their own demise if we don't manage to do it tomorrow night. But there would be a part of me that would be heartbroken if our players weren't rewarded with an opportunity in that next round, because they deserve to be there with the way that we've played. And this is the best chance we're going to have, because I don't know if we'll get a draw as good as this in future years. This was a really nice draw to us. And maybe that was just luck of the draw. But I don't know if we'll be afforded that luck again. So take this opportunity. Don't waste it. And tomorrow night, leave no doubts as to why we're in this position of the competition. Why we're fighting for a chance of the playoff round. And let's scare the opposition that could face us in those next rounds. Here is my team prediction for tomorrow night. I think it's a team that kind of picks itself. I'm not going to lie. Most of the conversation comes in the middle of the park. You could have a number of different midfield combinations for this game. For me, personally, I've gone with McGregor, Hatate and Engels, just because it's the best midfield three for me in terms of quality. These three are the best three midfielders at the club. The rest of the team picks itself. That is as simple as that. There doesn't even need to be a conversation about the rest of the team. The rest of the team picks itself. People will be saying, oh, Bernardo should come in, or maybe even McCowan should come in, or whatnot. Hatate is far too good in European games for us when it matters to ignore that coming into this game. I think Engels obviously recently has been great, maybe not as great at the weekend, but still been great and deserves to be in this starting 11. Yeah, that's just what I would go with. And if that is the team that gets named tomorrow night, even with a change or two, I'm confident it's a team that gets the job done. I'm very confident it's a team that gets the job done. So, yeah, as I said earlier, Rodgers has plenty of options to his disposal. But for me, this is the team. This is the team. To summarise very quickly everything that I've said, I want Celtic Park to be bouncing tomorrow night. I want the fans to be joyous from minute 1 to minute 90, and the way that we can be that way is if Celtic give us a reason to be that way. Go out there, be ruthless, take your chances, score early goals, put young boys' backs to the wall, and don't give them an inch to breathe. I'm sure they'll have their chances in the game, and I'm confident that the defence that we have will be able to deal with them. But as long as we create more, we should score more. And I know that sounds very Michael Owen of me. How obvious of a thing to say, Ryan. But it's true. If we just create more than them, and we should at Celtic Park, we should be fine. So I'm not overlooking them by any stretch of the imagination, but I would be so disappointed if we don't beat the side who are bottom of this competition without a point to their name. Right, a quick Celtic transfer talk update for you before we end this video. I know it's a long one today, so bear with me. We'll start with Lennon Miller, because reports from Sky have said that Motherwell have rejected a €3 million bid from Udinese for Lennon Miller. It's understood that Motherwell value him at more of a €4 million price range, which would be about £3.5 million. If that is true, Celtic need to act, and they need to act fast. Lennon Miller is somebody that Celtic shouldn't be letting go. Lennon Miller should be a Celtic player, whether it was getting loaned back to Motherwell till the end of the season or elsewhere. We cannot let him go. I think it would be gross negligence if we do not sign Lennon Miller, especially for a fee like that. This is John McGinn all over again. It's happening again. And I know that there's not a guarantee that Lennon Miller comes into this Celtic team right now to play football every week. The midfield's a crowded place to be. But when you put it down like this, Hatate is probably going to be off sometime in the next year or so. Engels, God knows how long we'll be able to keep a hold of him if he keeps playing well and scouts are looking at him. McGregor's getting on, so it's a matter of time before he maybe needs his minutes managed a bit better. There is going to be a place for Lennon Miller opening up in the next few years at Celtic, and I truly believe he's going to be one of Scotland's top talents in the next 5 years. Celtic can't let him get away. We need to enter that race if teams are sniffing around him, especially for fees as low as €4 million. Matthias Kvistgaarden, a player who we've spoke about a number of times over the last year and a half on this channel. He's been linked with Celtic constantly. Well, it might be the end of the road for him being a Celtic player, because according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky Sports Germany, he's reported that Frankfurt are one of the sides interested in Matthias Kvistgaarden, especially to replace the outgoing Omar Marmoush, of course, who's moving to Manchester City. Kvistgaarden is one of several candidates that Frankfurt are looking at, and I think that he ticks a lot of boxes simply. I could see that happening. Brøndby to Frankfurt, Denmark to Germany, young Danish talent just north of the border. It's one that I could just see happening, to be honest, and if Celtic don't need him right now and aren't going for him right now, then a club like Frankfurt are simply going to beat Celtic to the signature. So yeah, could be the end of the road for those rumours with Celtic and Matthias Kvistgaarden, but not definite. And finally, Mike Nawrocki. Yes, that's right, he's still here. Remember him, Mike Nawrocki. Well, it looks as though his Celtic career might be coming to an end, because down in England it seems there is a side interested, and the manager of Oxford United hasn't denied interest in Mike Nawrocki. This was his comments to the press when asked directly about Mike Nawrocki, saying that look, we're trying to bring in players and trying to sign players. We're certainly proactive. How close are we? I don't know. We'd hope to maybe get one or two more bodies in before the weekend. That would be the hope, but you never know. I've spent all afternoon looking at players in the hotel room. That's what we want to do. We want to strengthen the group. So yeah, asked directly about Mike Nawrocki, not saying that it's nonsense, not saying no to it. So is that going to happen? Maybe so, but he's somebody who you'd expect to see Celtic leave, somebody to leave Celtic sometime soon anyway, so he might be off. Right, so that's that for today. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It's going to be a nervous one heading to Celtic Park tomorrow. It's going to be a real nervous one, but I'm full of confidence. So hopefully that confidence is matched by happiness when I do my match reaction tomorrow night. Until then, take care of yourselves. Hail, hail. And I'll see you all next time.